Everybody, welcome to the first live stream of the week, and it's a doozy. I'm very excited to go over this with you, not only because it's such an important story, but because I see a lot of misinformation out there. This is the purest of business stories. There's just so much going on here, and there's really very little this is like pure business. This isn't the head of a division which is creating product. This is the head of a company. So I'm really excited to give you guys the information you need to be able to understand what's going on. That's right, this is my space, Oyster Bay. However, before we get started, since it is the first live stream of the week, it's time to gift some memberships. I gift memberships at the beginning of every week because you guys are so generous and continue to inspire me. So hold on, here we go. 5 memberships every single week. I see somebody else. Nurse Brad, thank you so much. Thank you very much. And there go mine. And by the way, everyone who's tuning in, I see you and I appreciate you, and it's lovely to have you here. Okay, so we're going to dive in. I have a lot to go over. Here are my chapter times. Where are they? Do, 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 do. Boop, boop, boopity boop, boop, baby. Zippity doo-dah, since we're doing Disney today. Thanks, Bubbles. So I'm going to go through these discussion points. I got a lot of pictures uploaded. We're going to have a great time. And then, of course, I'll do a lot and ask me anything about this situation at the very end of the stream. Okay, so you'll get to have your questions and your questions answered and your comments addressed. That's right, bibbity bobbity boop, Juan. That's the one that I should have done. Bibbity bobbity boop. Kalamazoo. And everybody, Disney's a very special company because I think it's just so a part of people's lives. That kind of brand recognition is incredible. Speaking of letting me cook, what's one of the most popular memes for let them cook? A Toy Story. Well, I think it's actually Magic, the Keys to the Kingdom or whatever from that video game, but it features, of course, Woody from Toy Story. Okay. I think it's funny, middle kid, that you're looking for another Eisner era. People hated Eisner when he was CEO. People couldn't wait to get him out of there. So, I think people always look back with some often rose-colored glasses. Eisner was really disliked back in the day. All right, so let's get started. Now, I want to start with entertainment versus experiences. So yesterday was Disney's earning call, their quarterly earning report. And Bob Iger had something very interesting to say. He said that he really was very happy with the fact that entertainment and experiences were involved in a healthy competition to be the driving financial force of the company, because whoever drives the finances is the most important. And so he said that that's what he said he was very happy with that, the way things were structured that way. And he has actually, with the board, created a leadership, which is in some ways experiences versus entertainment. And that's what you have with Dana Walden and Josh D'Amaro. Just to give you, we're going to go through this in detail, but just to give you a quick idea, Josh D'Amaro runs pretty much everything except for Hollywood. Dana Walden will cover Hollywood. And that, I believe, is why she has been given a new trumped up role where she's president and chief creative officer. But that's a big distinction. Now, I saw some people on the internet, just before we went live, I saw someone say, let him cook. It's like Frank Wells and Michael Eisner all over again. It's nothing like Frank Wells and Michael Eisner. Now, Frank Wells and Michael Eisner used to run Disney, but they were a division similar to Walt and Roy. One was creative and the other was a numbers person. Crunch the numbers so that the creative person could do what they needed to do. And that, there was some, Frank Wells tragically died in a helicopter accident. And a lot of people felt that that was really a turning point for Disney. And I think Michael Ovitz came in and was brought in to replace him, and that ended up being very bad. But Frank Wells was not going around making any creative decisions, even though the numbers person will often rein in the creative, try to bring them down to earth. But then it's the creative's job to insist sometimes and force the numbers person to find the money. Oh, that's right, Tal. Read the Disney Wars. That's a great book. So it's not like this at all. It's not like this at all. Now, it's also not like Peter Safran and James Gunn. Thank you, X-Men superfan. And then also, it's not like Dave Filoni and Lin Brennan, who just took over Lucasfilm. This is a situation where you have a creative who doesn't want to stop being a creative. So they need somebody who's a full-on producer to come in and handle like the nuts and bolts of running a company or a division in this case. Peter Safran is in charge. I mean, James Gunn is in charge, but he still wants to go and make movies. Dave Filoni is in charge, but he still wants to go and make movies and shows. So you need someone like Peter Safran or Lin Brennan to go in there and run the division when those people are occupied with their projects. So it's very different, okay? Josh D'Amaro and Dana Walden are still suits, okay? They're still, both of them are business people. Now, another interesting thing that I saw was that I saw an article in Deadline talking about, was Dana Walden a victim of a glass ceiling? I don't believe that she was, okay? I believe that Dana Walden, as we discussed on Friday, I think that Dana Walden is the victim of, as we discussed, and one of you had a really good comment about women think they get ahead by experience and performance, whereas men feel they get ahead on connections and vibes. And until women start learning to play in that arena, they're going to continue. I mean, I'm sure there's some element. We're going to talk about Disney has a very bad track record with female executives. And this is a very big deal in that regard. But I do think that women, just like I'm never, you might notice I'm never apologetic because I really don't like the fact that, historically women have had to be apologetic when they have strong opinions. You don't see men doing that, so I don't do it. And so you really need to see female executives not pulling a Kathleen Kennedy. So let's talk about two women that are here. So, because Josh D'Amaro, he just outplayed Dana Walden. He was playing on a different level. Dana Walden thought she was playing chess, and Josh D'Amaro was playing like 4D chess. And I think that this is just, as I said the other day, it's totally fair. It's totally fair how he did it. He totally outplayed her. And I hope that women and everyone should learn from this. But I think women in particular, because we're constantly making this mistake. So Donna Langley, for instance, is the woman who runs Universal Film and TV. You never hear about this lady, even though Universal is one of the most successful divisions in entertainment. I mean, they are often challenging Disney. So how is Donna Langley not a household name? How are we not hearing about this woman? How is she not in the headlines all the time? Why isn't she speaking at summits? She's speaking at CinemaCon here. That's where this photo is from. But I don't see her walking around that summit, with all those guy executives wearing their little Patagonia vests, right? Kay Walton, she might have to deal with some hate, but I think women have to stop hiding. Women have to get out there. And Kathleen Kennedy, of course, thank you, Lawfare. I think that, obviously people are like, well, I don't want to have a Kathleen Kennedy situation. Kathleen Kennedy did it to herself. Her opening salvo was, I don't need the male fans. And we were all like, take it back, Kathy. Okay, and then she did a couple of good projects, but then she also did The Acolyte, which I think was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back when it comes to Star Wars. 5J, you might know who Donna Langley is, and I'm sure a number of you do because we talk business all the time. But the average person doesn't know who Donna Langley is, and she's not in the news cycle. I had a theory that the New York Times article last week was planted by Josh D'Amaro's team. And I was talking to a friend of mine, to her credit, a female friend, and she was like, I'm sure Josh D'Amaro hired a publicist to help him get this job. And I was like, man, I don't know if I would have thought of that. And that's something really important to think of. That's the 4D chess of it all, right? Like if you're applying for a job that has a public element to it, is very much in the public eye, and you want favorable coverage, You got to hire a publicist. And that's something that women need. That's the things you need to start thinking about. Daniel, you might know who she is in the trades, but even then, I don't see Donna Langley in the trades to the degree that I've seen Bob Iger and David Zaslav. You know, and to be fair, some male executives like her boss, Brian Robb, or I'm not even quite totally sure of his name off the top of my head. But yeah, I mean, there are executives who aren't in the news, but they should be. Executives these days need to be in the news. I think it's really important. Classic Movie Lover says, does the average moviegoer need to know a CEO? No, but I think it's to the detriment of the CEO if they don't. I think that we live in a celebrity culture, and I think we live in a information culture, and I think if you're not trending, you're not as significant as you should be. That's right, they need to brand themselves. Okay, I think it's extremely important. And, you know, ask Dana Walden how she feels about it, because Dana Walden did not get the job. Dana Walden might have this nice new little title, and she might be able to reign over the Hollywood portion of the business. But tonight, who will be interviewed with Bob Iger on ABC News, which of course is owned by Disney? Josh D'Amaro. And Dana Walden will not be there. So I think that tells you all you need to know. And also Disney, that's right, Tall, Disney has always had a celebrity CEO, just because Walt himself had a tradition of introducing projects. And it's important for that executive to get out there and interact with the viewers. So let's talk about that, okay? So yeah, I think Dana Walden really dropped the ball here. But there are other elements as well as to why she did not get the job. So why did Josh get it? If you want to know why Josh D'Amaro got the Disney job, look at the difference in these two photos, right? Who's channeling Uncle Walt? Dana Walden, who, to be fair, came from Fox, so she didn't, you know, cut her teeth in Disney. Josh D'Amaro's been working in Disney for like years, 30 plus years. Also, Josh D'Amaro comes from marketing, so he really knows what he's doing. He's marketing the heck out of himself. So I think the fact that Josh is going around, I had to cut Minnie out of that photo, unfortunately, because I don't have the space for it. But Josh D'Amaro's going around taking photos, looking at blueprints with Mickey and Minnie. I mean, I'd be like, next time any woman works at Disney, I'd be like, go find me a character and make me stand next to him. You know? Like, I think it's really important. Then also, of course, he has, I forgot to grab the screen grab. Okay, but one thing is, there he is at D23. Look at the number of people he's talking to. Dana Walden is at the upfronts. She makes that's where I think she is, at the upfront. That's an industry event. Hey, thanks again, X-Men Superfan. But I didn't see her at D23 Expo. Another huge mistake. Dana should have been like, are you presenting some TV stuff? Let me in here. She's not there. Instead, Josh D'Amaro was there. And I think he benefits substantially from his FaceTime with the fans. You know, it makes it seem like he's already Uncle Walt. By the way, he has an Instagram account where I talked to another friend of mine who's a huge Disney fan. They were like, I love Josh. I go on his Instagram account all the time. He's such a sweetheart. And I was like, what a relationship he's built up with the fans. Why isn't Dana on Instagram? I mean, like, yikes. I think Maria, she didn't know to do this because I think that the industry is evolving. I mean, just a few years ago, nobody knew who any of the executives were, but that's really changing at lightning speed. And now people do. And I think, I think it's unfortunate. Yeah, that's right. That's right. She should have pulled a Glinda iReady. Glinda knew how to market, and it makes a really big difference. And that's right, Tall. Fox was not a very public studio, so she didn't really come up in that kind of corporate culture. And I don't know if she could have caught up to Josh D'Amaro. Although Josh D'Amaro got promoted to the heads of parks and experiences at the same time that Dana Walden joined this company because of the Fox acquisition. So, oh, he just posted on Instagram. Look at him. He's so out there. I love it. Okay. Bob Chapek was not on Instagram, but he was hated by all. He was hated before he was hired. He was called Bob Cheapek because he was so cheap and did such a poor job with parks and experiences. So yes, parks and experiences. You know, this is really a very lucrative part of the Disney company right now. And I think it's one of the reasons that Josh D'Amaro was picked, because this division is doing so well. Now, I would counter Epic Universe happened on his watch. While Josh D'Amaro was running Disney theme parks, Epic Universe, Universal leapfrogged over the company in a very embarrassing way. Now, to be sure, Disney Experiences has been focusing a lot of their park expansions overseas. I believe the Dubai park was Josh D'Amaro's idea. I don't know how that one's going to go. I don't know. He didn't take a lot of blowback for that, but I think everybody just decided to ignore it. Yeah, Epic Universe, that's right, Just Blaze Disney. Epic Universe is not without its problems, but it made it seem like Disney was behind. Now, to his credit, Josh D'Amaro has tried to make up for lost time. At last year's D23, or the year before, D23 Expo, they announced Villains Land and Cars Land and all these expansions. So a lot is happening, and it's happening very quickly. But yeah. It's funny you compare to Tom Wambach from Succession. That's funny that you say that, but that Succession is a different kind of situation. The reason that it was different in Succession is that Alexander Skarsgård's character came in and ran the company, and he wanted to remain the star. So he hired someone to succeed him on that show. That, you know, the story is that he wanted someone who would, you know, be his Peter Safran. That's the best way to describe Succession, you know. But here they're looking for a star. They're looking for someone to do presentations, to interact with the public, and to interact politically, which we're going to be discussing. But, you know, they don't want to get in trouble with the politics like they did under Chapek. I think they're very nervous about that. That's right, Star Cruiser, Mike. That was also under Josh D'Amaro's watch, to be fair. But this guy seems pretty Teflon. Nobody brought any of this up. They were like, but the fans love him. Look, there he is in his cute little sweater, looking like Bob Iger Jr., standing next to a bunch of fans who can't wait to get their photo with him. So you're like, you know, I mean, perception is really important, you know? Not only is it valuable, I mean, look, it's so funny. Actors are saying they can't get hired without Instagram followers. Are we looking at a near future where an executive can't get promoted without them either? That to me is actually fascinating. That's very, very interesting. That's amazing. All right, so yes, but they're like, he has so many followers, he can't be that bad. He's also been in charge of video games and AI, which also, of course, is a rapidly expanding forefront for the Disney company. So he's in a lot of hot areas. But then here's one that's even hotter that I think a lot of people don't know about it. I only knew about it recently. He's a big force in China. In fact, part of his coming up in the Disney company was in China and in fact in Asia overall. There he is, I think, getting ready for the opening of Frozen's land over there. However, he actually even lived in Hong Kong for several years while he was working his way up. And what just made, as I wrote here, $631 million in China, Zootopia 2. So I think that his ties to Asia and how he's thinking outside the box, and, you know, Hollywood is constantly looking for growth these days. Hollywood is so desperate for growth that Netflix is really doubling down on their, you know, not sharing subscriptions, because they're like, we don't think we can get any more people to sign up. How can we get more subscriptions by forcing people who are currently getting it for free? So I think that, you know, Asia is showing tremendous growth, and I think that Josh D'Amaro has a following there, and Dana Walden does not have that experience. So that's another reason that he was hired. And so that's substantial. Are you sure that's Dana Walden? If it's actually her account, Sophia, I haven't seen it, but I'm surprised she has an account. It must be personal. She has 20,000 followers. Man, you know, I gotta tell you, I'll just say it here. Her contract is through 2030. Josh D'Amaro does not have an end date on his contract. So I think they're probably a little nervous after what happened with Chapek. If I were Dana Walden, it's never too late, especially because she has this new fancy role, to hire a publicist and to start pushing. And, you know, hey, if Josh D'Amaro doesn't work out, yoink, she could slip in there and still take the job. So don't quit, Dana. This is a little bit of a slap in the face, but don't quit. Get back in there, learn from Josh, learn from him, and make yourself, I mean, she looks great. I mean, I'm a little biased. We're kind of dressed alike today. I'm like, I really like your style, Dana. I think she looks fabulous. I think she looks great for a female CEO. I think she and Donna Langley both have great styling. You know, female corporate people and executives used to look a lot like grandmas. You know, you'd be like, "Why are you guys just like grandmas?" You know, it was really frustrating. So I've been very happy to see female politicians and now female executives moving in the same direction of looking, you know, a little bit more on trend. I think it's really important. It's hard for women to find suits, so thank you also to fashion designers who are doing a better job with clothing for women at work. You know, I think that's really great. I mean, that's a great photo for her. I mean, I think there's something for her to work with here. She's just got to work harder. She has to realize the game she's actually playing. So let's talk about Dana. We believe in you, Dana. We believe in you. All right. So, while Josh D'Amaro was traveling the world, Dana Walden was doing a very nice job building relationships in Hollywood. And of course, remember, for a large part of her career, she was at Fox, whereas Josh D'Amaro was working her way up the Disney ladder. All right, but she really benefited from the fact that Josh D'Amaro has pretty much no Hollywood experience. So Dana Walden was like, you, and I have lots of Hollywood relationships, etc. So I think that really helped her substantially in keeping her around and them creating this new role for her called President, aka Chief Creative Officer. So what's important about her is that she's someone, where's my little Hollywood picture here? She knows how to talk to Hollywood. Remember how Chapek really made Scarlett Johansson upset off of the Black Widow situation, right? And it doesn't just happen at Disney. Jason Kilar, who took over from Digital when he went over to Warner Brothers, really got Christopher Nolan so upset he left the studio and went to Universal. Look at Donna Langley drinking everybody's milkshake. Christopher Nolan, come on over here. Taylor Sheridan, are you unhappy? Come to Universal. And yet still nobody knows really who Donna Langley is in the general public. How is she not getting credit for these boss moves? Yoink, give me Christopher Nolan. Yoink, give me Taylor Sheridan. And yet nobody really pays attention to Donna Langley. It makes me so angry. Okay. Oh, so people are going to be a little mean to you on social media. Take one for the team, man. Come on, help other women out here and having women be in this fight. Or this party or this spectacle or whatever. Okay. But yes, Dana Walden knows how to talk to people in Hollywood, and it's extremely important. That's a very important skill. Just like any industry, but particularly in Hollywood. Hollywood has a special way that people deal with each other. There's, it's a dance that's done, and you have to know it. And, you don't want to accidentally offend anybody. It's a business of relationships. So I think she's extremely valuable there. So I think that's great. But she has, because of that, some liabilities. I think the Jimmy Kimmel situation might have actually hurt her. I didn't think it did last week when some of you brought it up. But I do think that perhaps her being attached to that wasn't great. I mean, I think that Josh D'Amaro doesn't have any problems like that. And then a big one is that she, like 90% of Hollywood, is very good friends with Kamala Harris. In fact, she actually is friends with Kamala Harris. She doesn't just support Kamala Harris. Dana Walden and Kamala Harris are friends. So I think that they do not want a repeat of their fight with conservatives that almost brought the company down, and they're still recovering from with what happened under Chapek. They do not need a Ron DeSantis situation. And I just think that's a very tough position to be in. But it's not Dana Walden's fault. I mean, again, she's in Hollywood. She's entrenched in Hollywood. I mean, that's kind of like what people have been doing. So I think that is kind of a little bit of an issue. So that's one thing. Elliot says, how is she responsible for that and not ABC? Well, she was in charge of ABC. Dana Walden up until this new job. Beforehand, she was in charge of all of the television. And now she's in charge of all entertainment, right? So there's that. Okay. Now, also, she is, to be fair, the very first female president at the company. Now, it's not really a fantastic position, but since the company was founded in 1923, that's why it's called D23, folks, she is the first female president of the company. You can see Michael Eisner had that position a little bit, Bob Iger, you know, there's Michael Ovitz, who took it over after Frank Wells died. Sometimes, I think sometimes it's, I think they got rid of it after a while with Bob Iger. That's why there hasn't been one for a while, since 2016. But, it's not, as you can see by who had it, it's not a flashy job. But, she is the first woman, so she should take it. But I do want to point out that Disney does have, unfortunately, a bad history with women. They do have, you might be like, are you just imagining it? Nope. In fact, just as recently as 2024, Disney had to agree, and if they agreed to settle it, that means they felt they were going to get sued for much more. They paid some lady, and I think maybe it might have ended up being class action, but $43 million. That's how bad it was. That's what they agreed to pay. They were like happy to pay it because they thought it would get worse. That they didn't pay female executives as much as they did men. That's pretty bad. And Disney, of course, is pretty well known in the industry for being a pretty cutthroat place. It's the happiest place on earth, but they'll also stab you in the back while they smile at you. So it's a very aggressive company. I think everything's becoming pretty aggressive these days, but Disney is particularly aggressive. But yes, Disney, and that's right. That's right, Tall. Thank you for pointing that out. Disney's had a very bad track record with executives of color. And in fact, Bob Chapek had brought somebody in. But, when Bob Chapek left, that executive had to leave as well because he was Chapek's person. So yes, although Hollywood has a pretty bad track record itself across the board with female executives and executives of color. But, Disney is not exempt from that. Despite how forward they try to be in their content, it's very much a part of what they put forward, but it's not very much of what they actually do, which is interesting. That's right, Karen. Sherry Lansing was the first woman to head a studio. She used to be an actress, and she was the head of Paramount, interestingly enough. Sherry Lansing, a pioneer in her field. And she was well known because she used to be an actress, and so people had known her because of that. Okay, so let's talk about the new Disney structure. Who will report to Josh tomorrow? So Dana Walden will. She will report, and she will be covering all of entertainment. And then Alan Bergman, who briefly was in the running for the CEO job as well. I think it's funny they're using a photo of Alan Bergman from like 20 years ago. Alan Bergman's like on speed dating here. He's like putting an old photo up there. I'm like, dude, you got to update the website. It's ridiculous. This is what he looks like now. And he briefly was in the running to take over Disney as well. It didn't last very long. So he reports, I think he reports to Dana Walden. I'm not saying Josh tomorrow won't go and talk to him occasionally, but he falls under Dana Walden's purview. If he doesn't have to report to Dana Walden, her job sucks because she's supposed to be in charge of all film and TV. Then another person who reports directly to Josh tomorrow is Asad Ayaz, who, by the way, an LGBTQ executive, and he runs marketing and branding. He's the chief executive of marketing and branding, which is an extremely important position, particularly for the Disney company, which relies so heavily on marketing and branding. So this is a special position that was created for him. They've elevated it even more higher up in the company because it's so crucial. So he is a huge player there. And then this guy, where's my arrow? Jimmy Pitaro, who looks so much like a Jimmy Pitaro. He runs sports. He runs ESPN. They were like, maybe he might run Disney. No, he just kind of hangs out by himself and runs ESPN. And they're like, people like sports. It's kind of off on its, I think the trades were calling it Sports Island today because they just are off to the side doing their own thing. But doesn't he like just exudes sports? He's like, sports! You're like, oh, Jimmy, do you even know how to talk to anybody over here? And he's like, it doesn't matter. I only have to talk to my people. And they go, that's right, Jimmy. See you at the next meeting. Okay, so this is like the Disney leadership, okay? Just so you know who's over there. And good for Dana. We have Dana, the only woman here. And then you have Ayaz, the only LGBTQ and person of color here. But, it's more diverse than other executive suites. So it's pretty good. Okay. Now let's talk money. How much these people getting paid? They're getting paid more than Superman and Lois Lane, who get less than $1 million. Everybody was like, you're Superman and you're getting less than $1 million? And he's like, hey, at least I'm Superman. All right, so their paydays. Let's talk about pay structure. So DeMaro's initial package is for $38.4 million, and Dana Walden's getting $24 million, but her contract is good through 2030. And I'm sure there's chances for promotion and, an increase in pay. So that's good. And Bob Iger, just for comparison, in his last year, 2025, he was paid $45.8 million. So obviously, Josh DeMaro is surprisingly close considering he's just getting started. That is less than Zazie. Zazie's making just so much money. Zazie's like, it's incredible. But here's the thing. Let's look at pay structure. So they are, in fact, so this is how Bob Iger's salary breaks down. So the base salary is quite small. He only got paid $1 million. That was kind of a publicity move that he was only getting paid $1 million. I believe DeMaro is getting paid around 2 something or 3 something, and Walden's getting paid a little over 1. That's the base salary. Now, you really make a lot of money in stock, right? This is why they care so much about stock. I've said recently, and I think it's unfortunate, that today's CEOs, they make their money, they report, and they're beholden to Wall Street. They're not beholden to the customer. They're not beholden to their employees. They're beholden to Wall Street. And I think that's been really bad for society. But what can you do about it? There's nothing you can do about it. So $21 million in stock, another $14 million in options, stock options. Then he gets a cash bonus incentive. They're like, you did a really good job this year, Bob. Here's another $7.25 million, right? He's like, I'm not doing this for free. And then also you can see they spent a little over $2.5 million on expenses. They're like paying for security, which I would think anybody would have. I mean, look at the tragedy that's befalling Savannah Guthrie right now. It's just so sad and shocking. You need security in today's world. And then air travel and things like that, all that. And I think that's understandable. I have to, again, Zazie's getting paid so much more than this. This just looks like tuppence. Tuppence a bag, to borrow a term from Mary Poppins. I mean, this is nothing. This is kid stuff. And this is what you need to pay a CEO to get top talent, because this is what other companies pay their CEOs. I do feel they should pay executives, and I think it's really awful, that stuff. But that doesn't mean you don't have to pay your CEO either. Okay, so that's the pay structure. And then finally, Michael Eisner tweeted a little something. Michael Eisner came in here, a little bitchy thing, and he was like, oh, I got something to say. And I think it was pretty good, actually, though. So Michael Eisner tweeted, yeah, Bob Iger is worth $697 million. He has a lot of stuff. He owns tons of stock. He has obviously invested his money. He wrote a book. You can make a lot of money as an executive. A lot of times people want to go for the sexier jobs of actor or director. You can make as Oyster Bay just said, you can make an obscene amount of money as an executive. Don't discount the executive path in life. Okay. And these are just the people at the very top. I mean, a lot of executives make quite a bit of money. All right, so here's Eisner. Michael Eisner said, congrats to Josh DeMaro for becoming the CEO of the Walt Disney Company. You know how Michael Eisner got his job? Rumor has it, or legend has it, that one of the reasons they picked him is that he was the only interviewee who wore a Mickey Mouse tie to the interview. I love that story. Okay, but yes, everybody hated Michael Eisner when he was the CEO. Okay, so, and congratulations to Chairman James Gorman for making such a wise pick, as well as promoting Dana Walden to President and Chief Creative Officer. My advice to Josh is to continue Bob Iger's strategy that creativity will handle profits. Always protect the brand, that's crucial, and keep close the words of Walt Disney. Now, this was the kicker. We love to entertain kings and queens, but the vital thing to remember is this. Every guest receives the VIP treatment. Good luck. Ooh! And that's a really direct shot at parks and experiences. Like everybody today, everyone today, every industry is nickel and diming people. They just announced the Delta is going to have different levels of even first class. They're like, just because you have a first class ticket doesn't mean you have the best first class ticket. And you're like, what the F, man? Are you kidding me? You know, like, I mean, I think they're just trying to squeeze more and more money out of the consumer. And I think that Disney, I don't really know if that's appropriate for Disney. I mean, they're making so much money, though. That's the problem. Once this is like a Pandora's box. Once you start the nickel and diming procedure and you see how much money you can make doing it, it's very difficult to and again, because Wall Street will go, well, you're making less money now. And Wall Street doesn't have but Wall Street doesn't care. They don't have the foresight to think about what it might mean in the long term. They're worried about the bottom line this quarter. But that was a very aggressive thing for Michael Eisner to say. And I would agree with it, in fact. I think that Disney, for better, well, here's the thing. Disney has an incredible brand. I think it's better than most companies, any company really. You know, they are a part of people's lives. And that gives them a special place in people's hearts and an advantage that I think a lot of other companies would say is unfair, but yet Disney enjoys it. However, it also gives Disney a responsibility for people's lives. You know, I think that having somebody pay to go to a theme park and have to see people pass them up in line, and there's a considerable difference between the lines, and having a small child have to realize at a young age that their parent can't afford the VIP package is truly awful. And I think something that should be considered. And I think the old fast pass system was fantastic. Also, the parks are overcrowded. You know, I think anyone could on many days look at a Disney theme park and be like, you've let too many people in here. Nobody can have a good time at this level of crowd. And, you know, that's something, there's a big problem with over tourism. You can see the Trevi Fountain just had to put up a paywall as well, but a very inexpensive one because the paywall, because it's a Trevi Fountain just became too crowded. But yeah, I think that it's a really difficult position. And I think that the damage to the Disney brand, I think that people love Disney so much they won't stop going there, but I think that the migration has started a little bit. I think that it used to be, hey Cat Shack, thank you. It used to be that when you went to Orlando, you went to Disney World and you added 1 or 2 days for Universal. And I think there are more and more people who are going to Universal as their main experience and adding 1 or 2 days of Disney. And that is a significant change. And then again, that happened under Josh D'Amaro, but he's not getting any flack for that. But I think it's important. I think it's really important. All right, so that's my thoughts on this. We'll see how I guess my overall thoughts. I feel bad for what this says about women still being kind of like caught off guard by networking. You know, it's very, very different. Men and women are different. They really are, you know. I mean, that doesn't mean that women can't compete, but I think you have to kind of learn to think differently. And I feel bad that Dana Walden had to learn this lesson, but it's beneficial to everyone else. And I hope that everyone does learn it. And I think that Dana Walden's still in it. She didn't have to, they thought, you know, she didn't have to leave the company. She's still in the mix. And I hope she starts to boost her profile. I really do. And we'll see how Josh D'Amaro does. He does not have a guaranteed contract for any amount of time. And we'll see how he does out of the gate. We'll see, you know, we'll see. All right, so let's do the Q&A for 10 minutes and then I must go. Okay. All righty. Okay. Are you, Tan, are they making a Kevin Feige bio movie in 2020? I don't believe that headline. That seems silly to me. Let's see here. Wanda says, do you think that this change will affect how Marvel is run, or will Feige be able to operate business as usual? I think that what happened to Kathleen Kennedy is a warning shot to every division head. You must deliver. And I think that, you know, 2026 is going to be 2026 and 2027. I can almost guarantee you that DC is going to have a bad year this year, but let's see how Man of Tomorrow does. Let's see if the Netflix deal goes through. Netflix is going to Washington, DC today, and it's not looking good. That deal might not happen. So let's see what happens there. But I mean, like, they have to start delivering again. Muma says, hey, Grace, what's the biggest trap you would tell Josh to avoid? Not to be too sure of himself. That's, I think, very crucial. Let's see. When does he start, Poke? Pretty soon. He should be starting very shortly. I think just in the next month or so, they'll start to transition over to him. Bob Iger will probably stick around a little bit like training wheels, and he has a very close relationship to both these executives. Mexican Nantra says, Grace, what should be the priorities for each of these roles? That's a great answer. That's a great question as well. I think for Dana Walden needs to fix Star Wars and Marvel. That should be her number one job. She needs to fix those, and she needs to fix the problem that Disney Plus is not anywhere of the quality that Hulu's programming is. But by the way, Hulu is largely her purview because it's very much based on Fox, and she comes from Fox. So that's a good sign. So I think that Dana needs to really whip movies and TV into shape, not only because that's her job, but it will significantly raise her profile with fans. She should think of herself as a Kevin Feige type figure who's very much interfacing with fans. And I hope to see her at D23 this August presenting. I'd like to be able to identify her voice. And then as for Josh D'Amaro, I'd like to see him fix the parks. I'd like to see him repair the Disney image. I don't want any more fighting with Disney. I want it to be true to itself. I want it to just go back to being largely positive, and I think that's very important for him. All right, let's see here. X-Men Superfan says, do you think we will get a Wonder Woman announcement this year? No, I think you're not going to really get any announcements until Warner Brothers decides what's happening to it. I'm glad you made it, David. Oh, it's a fake account that said that? Thanks. Yeah, I'm not surprised. You guys got to read the name of the person tweeting out. Okay. Deck Officers says, will Disney skip Comic-Con this year? I don't think they will. They have to promote Doomsday. I think they'll do both. I think they'll do Comic-Con and D23 as they had done the year before. That's right, Tall. Kevin's on set of Doomsday every day. That is make or break for him. Zeta says, as the EU and other parts of the world start to decenter the US and incorporate China, do you think Josh and Disney will continue the same? Well, no, I think Josh D'Amaro is look how he's bringing in Asia to the mix. I think that all entertainment companies are becoming more global. And I think that Josh D'Amaro was picked because of his global experience. Steven says, Disney World and Universal each have a bit of what the other lacks. Disney has more immersive theming, but Universal has more adult thrill rides. I really liked Universal, and I was glad that I went to Epic Universe. But I have to tell you, they still can't create the Disney magic. I don't know if Disney can still create it. I think they're still very much running on what Walt built, But being at Disney still just feels different for some reason. Paris says, Grace, do you think that Josh will lean into new creative stories, or he will continue to see remakes and sequels? Well, that's Dana's division. You have to ask Dana that. Dana's in charge of film and TV. I mean, I guess Josh D'Amaro can give her marching orders. But I think that they will do a balance of both because sequels just make too much money. It would be fiscally irresponsible not to promote sequels. Thank you, Chris. Josh D'Amaro starts March 18th. Oh, boy. X-Men Superfan says, do you think Nubia will appear in the... we were talking about Disney stuff, but I mean, you're so generous, I'll answer your question. I don't know if they'll ever make a Wonder Woman movie or under James Gunn or a Paradise Lost series, but if they do, I do think Nubia will show up. She's being pushed quite hard in the comics. I like Tom King's Wonder Woman, and then the new arc is quite good. They're thankfully done with the Mouse King thing. All right, so Middle Kid says, do you think D'Amaro will free Imagineering and greenlight non-IP projects? I hope so. I really hope so. I think that would be wonderful. Imagineering is just chomping at the bit. And I do believe losing people So hopefully he whips that into shape as well. I think this will be hopefully a feeling of a new era for Disney, and people won't feel so defeated as they kind of have been. Tim says, "Do you like The Boys or Invincible to be the more enjoyable show?" I like both, but I'm really excited to see what they do with the final season of The Boys. I'm a huge Homelander fan, as many of you know. I think his character is just delicious. Chico says, "Can Dana greenlight a solo Scarlet Witch movie?" Well, she has to respect the head of Marvel, which currently is Kevin Feige, but I think she can make a suggestion. She can make a very, a pretty pointed request, right? And say, you know what I think would be a really good idea? And, I think, but I don't know if she would want to. I don't know. I don't know if there's still a space for a Scarlet Witch movie. Let's see how Vision Quest performs. All right. X-Men Superfan says, "Do you think the Queen Hippolyta..." I don't know if they'll go that far, but I think that we'll see. Again, I don't know if James... We'll see if James Gunn gets to do... You're asking all these DC questions. We're not talking about DC, but I appreciate your enthusiasm. Let's see here. Benjamin says, "You want fan service and more fan service?" Karen, yeah, there are no Disney trailers at the Super Bowl, but I think it's because there are no projects coming up. Doomsday is too far away and they have other projects they need to promote. I wouldn't take it as a sign of weakness. It's just that Marvel is taking a very big break because they are in some trouble, just like Star Wars had to take a break. It's not good when you have to take a break, but it's better than the alternative, which is continuing to dig yourself deeper. William says, "Why not do this to begin with and not Chapek?" Well, Bob Chapek, Bob Iger beforehand had wanted to stay on. And also Josh D'Amaro wasn't Josh D'Amaro. Josh D'Amaro is only who he is today because Bob Chapek vacated Parks and Experiences. And Josh D'Amaro took that job. And again, a lot of you, I saw some of you asking, we'll see who takes on the new Parks and Experiences position. That's a really hot spot. Twice now it's been promoted to head of the company. A lot of people are going to want that job. And I hope they learned from Josh D'Amaro what he did with it. Brandon says, "I wish Universal had bought Warner Brothers. Do you think that Universal will keep growing?" Yes, I do. They have to. Evolve or die. With the way all these other companies are expanding, if Universal does not grow, they will be bought by somebody else. They'll be bought. Vlad says, "Because the Disney magic is built on years of emotional investment and Universal is just not." That's very true. I think there's a cozy factor also to Disney. I think, it's, people sometimes say that the child aspect holds them back, but it gets them early. Disney is a part of you when you grow up. Alexander Wilson says, "The most important initiative for Disney is the cruises. They bring in a lot of money, and I think they're a big reason for Josh's pick." Well, I mean, they must. They're building like 5 more cruise ships, and he's launching a new port out of Singapore, which is fascinating to me. Yeah, I think that clearly he's in the hot section. Thanks, Ola. Let's see. Zay says, "Would you consider doing a full review of Epic Universe Park versus Disney?" I don't really cover the parks. Maybe if it continues to be really slow. Oh, happy birthday, Philly. I hope the Villains Land delivers as well, Maria, although I'm nervous with Dark Universe at Universal. I thought Dark Universe was not as good as I'd hoped it to be. Tillman, I agree. This is refreshing. I think it's exciting to have new people in charge. Jose says, "I watched Emily Chang's Bloomberg interview with Dana Walden. She was great and clearly understands Disney." Oh, that's great. I'll have to check that out. Good for her. That's great. Get out there, Dana. Get out there. Just get out there. Just constantly try and talk to people. The Deck Officer, they have Mickey Mouse shorts. I like the ones they did recently that the Runaway Railroad is based on. I think they're actually pretty funny. The first Disney movie of 2026 already came out. It was Send Help. But I guess technically that was a Fox movie. I think the first one is Hoppers from Pixar. I think that's going to be rough, but we'll see what happens. Let's see here. All right, let me do these quick questions and then I got to go. Oh, my pleasure, Jesus. I'm glad you enjoyed the stream. That's right, Nick. They have to promote Mandalorian and Grogu on Sunday, so they got to do that. Oh, and thank you, Maria. Yes, like and subscribe. That would be greatly appreciated. Thank you, everybody who tuned in today. I appreciate it. And then Juan says, do you feel people are switching to Disney Paris instead of Orlando? Personally, a European visa is easier and quicker to get than an American visa. Oh, that's interesting. I've been to Disneyland Paris. I went for Christmas last year. It was just magical. I think those parks are wonderful. And I think a lot of Disney fans try to get to as many parks as they can. And Disney does a wonderful job. I think each park has its own personality. Even here in the United States, Disneyland feels so different from Disney World. And it's important. I think it's nice to try and, I really want to go to Tokyo, but I have not. It's a long trip. Raphael says, why aren't we seeing any Mickey, Minnie, Donald, Daisy, Scrooge, or other Disney original characters? I think they're scared of ruining them, but let's see if maybe Dana Walden gives them that directive. Vlad says, concerned that Hoppers and Hext will bomb and Toy Story 5 will make a ton of money. I think that's a very real possibility. I'm glad you made it, Big League Chew, but that doesn't mean they should give up. They just have to keep trying. Oh, Chico, you're going to Tokyo Disney Sea. I'm so jealous. And again, happy birthday, Philly. Sean says Tokyo is fantastic. I know, I really want to go. Someday. It's like, I have to take like 2 weeks off from work to go. It's so far away. So that's a big ask. But hopefully, all right, everybody. Mwah! I had a great time talking about this to you. I think it's exciting for Dana Walden. I think this is Kathleen Kennedy's going away. Dana Walden's on the rise. I think women executives are moving in the right direction. That's really great. And thank you so much, everybody. I love talking to you, and I shall see you soon for the next live stream.